You have to see this. Xi Jinping slapped Putin in the face. The oil tap has been shut off. China has left Russia hanging for a huge amount of money. Putin wasn't prepared for this. Beijing started making moves behind the Kremlin's back. Silently, they're taking away Russia's golden vein. The first signs. Russia is beginning to fall apart. Siberia is first in line. The Celestial Empire has gone all in. Washington is now the best friend and Moscow the bitter enemy. A strike of revenge is being prepared. Watch till the end to find out more about this. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Darina Hutsakalo, and here are the latest events. This happened a sharp turn away from Moscow. China has started to turn away from Russian oil after the introduction of new U.S. sanctions.
State giants like Sinopec and PetroChina are staying on the sidelines, having cancelled some Russian shipments after U.S. sanctions against PJSC Rosneft and PJSC Lukoil last month. Smaller private refineries known as teapots are also holding back, fearing similar penalties.
Russia is starting to panic, a real blow to the pocketbook. The main buyer has started to shut off the taps. And here are the first results. Supplies have dropped by almost 400,000 barrels per day. That's about 45% of all Russian oil exports to China. And not so long ago, it was Russia that was the main oil supplier to its ally. But now everything is falling apart, and the oil friendship is bursting at the seams. China is looking for profit, not pitying the Kremlin, and it seems that the era of cheap Russian oil is coming to an end. And yet another powerful slap in the face for Putin. Once a loyal ally, China has started to take over the URF region. China is turning Siberia into its own resource base. This was reported by the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine.
One of the key examples is the Zashulanskoye coal deposit in Zabaikalsky Krai. Its development is being carried out by a joint venture between Russia's N+ Group, owned by Oleg Deripaska, and China's Shenhua Group. The mining operation is planned for 100 years, and the Russian authorities have granted the company tax benefits. Starting in 2027, it is planned to transport 5 million tons of coal annually to China, about 500 trucks per day.
A highway is being built primarily for this purpose. The jobs are not going to locals, but to Chinese specialists. The machine has been set in motion. Up to 2 million Chinese citizens already live in the Far East. It seems this is only the beginning of a silent occupation.
Even the symbol of Russia's natural wealth, Lake Baikal, is gradually becoming part of China's economic interests, highlighting just how much Moscow has lost control over its own resource-rich regions.
Clearly, Xi Jinping has begun to act according to his plan. Behind closed doors, the dictator has decided the future fate of the Russian region. Putin is watching this and is already openly starting to panic. However, he can't do anything about it. Right now, a juicy piece of Russia is tipping the scales in China's favor. What will happen next, and will the Kremlin leader dare to resist? We'll find out in just a moment. Russia is losing the Far East, unofficially but in reality.
The Far East, without any exaggeration, has become the most important factor in strengthening Russia's position in the world. Our flagship in the new global economic reality.
While the Kremlin is busy with the war, the region is quietly being divided by its neighbors, China and North Korea.
I would call this a creeping takeover because of, among other things, migration. For now, of course, control over the Far East remains in Moscow's hands, but there are more and more Chinese people there, and they are playing an increasingly significant role in the economy. But as they say, today they play a big role in the economy, and tomorrow they'll play a big role in politics.
Over 1 trillion rubles in investments from China? Sounds like aid. But all of this revolves around trade, not the development of the region.
China needs to use Russian resources at a lower cost, and accordingly they will have that opportunity. And that's why I think the economic dependence of these regions on China will only continue to grow.
Also, the Chinese have not been guests in Russia for a long time.
The Far East is simply not needed. It should be given to the Chinese. That's what they want to do, play host. The Chinese can easily come in, and that's it. No one here will resist anymore. There will be no one to resist and nothing to resist with.
According to various estimates, up to 2 million Chinese live from Vladivostok to the Urals.
There's an active effort to settle these territories with Chinese people, and in various forms. This includes both people who have migrated themselves, and mixed marriages from which children are born. And accordingly, these regions are becoming more and more closely tied to China.
Now, about North Korea. In the past year alone, more than 15,000 North Koreans have officially arrived in the Far East and unofficially up to 50,000. And that's not the limit yet. Already,
153,000 new labor contracts have been ordered, representing a significant step in formalizing employment arrangements. These contracts are intended to clarify the terms and conditions for both employers and employees. After taking some time to think about everything that has happened and carefully considering all the details, it has become apparent, perhaps even unexpectedly, that we have come to an important realization. In summary, what we have found is that
Moscow has handed over the region for temporary use. But why?
Putin needs people whom, as he believes, are easy to control. It doesn't matter, even if not directly, but through intermediaries. That's why he's convinced these people won't start a revolution, won't protest against the real Moscow. He thinks these are very convenient people, and it would be good if Russia were populated by such convenient people. Because with his own people, things might not work out so well.
But everything comes at a price. And the longer the Kremlin turns a blind eye, the more important the question becomes, who is really in charge of the Far East?
In reality today, of course, Russia is, in the current geopolitical context, essentially functioning as a vassal state of China, a position which China strategically utilizes primarily as a means to exert significant pressure on the European continent and its nations. And we must understand with clarity that the ongoing global confrontation, of course, is not truly occurring between Russia and NATO, but rather it is fundamentally a struggle between China and the United States, as well as between China and Europe. In this particular case, today's Russia can be likened to a loyal guard dog that dutifully obeys every single command and directive issued by its master, without hesitation or question.
So what happens next? Is it possible for the Far East to return to real control by Moscow? Or, on the contrary, will the influence of China and
North Korea country
It seems that while Putin is focused on seizing other people's territories, he is gradually losing his own. And ironically, these territories are being taken not even by enemies, but by the Kremlin's own allies.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Tensions have reached a critical point. The Russian Federation has completely fallen in the eyes of China. It seems that now Washington is closer to Beijing than Moscow is. Everything changed for good after the meeting between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. Beijing and Washington are re-establishing contact while Russia remains on the sidelines without allies and without any influence. Xi Jinping made it clear that China is ready to talk with the US and is betting on stability, not on conflicts.
China and the US can take on joint responsibility as major countries and work together to achieve greater and more concrete results for the benefit of our two nations and the whole world.
Donald Trump and Xi Jinping have finally tightened the noose around Putin's neck. We
agree that the sides, are stuck in fighting. And sometimes perhaps you have to let them fight. But he will help us, and we will work together on Ukraine.
Who would have thought the US and China, former trade rivals, now seem to be playing on the same team against Moscow? A sensation. Right after the meeting, the US lowers tariffs for China from 20% to 10%. And Trump rated his conversation with the Chinese leader a 12 out of 10. They are forming a new global alliance in which the Kremlin no longer has a place. This is not just a diplomatic slap in the face, it's a geopolitical execution. The US and China have put Russia in its place and rewritten the global game without it. All the details about this, don't miss what's next.
Donald Trump met with Xi Jinping in South Korea as part of his Indo-Pacific tour. The main topics of the meeting were trade barriers between the countries and, of course, the Russia-Ukraine war.
They moved on to building a longer-term joint agenda for political dialogue, which in principle is a very positive aspect of this meeting. In
As a result of the meeting, the parties agreed to reduce the tariff on Chinese goods related to fentanyl, a synthetic opioid analgesic, from 20% to 10%. The overall level of US duties will reach 47%.
The fundamental issues underlying the conflict between the US and China are not going anywhere. And these are very important questions, such as the fate of the island of Taiwan and the possibility of imposing tariffs on Chinese goods, specifically because of the purchase of Russian oil. Trump said that these issues were not raised diplomatically, but in such cases, as a rule, when you don't reach an agreement, you say that you didn't talk about it.
The agreements regarding Ukraine were less productive, despite the fact that, according to the US president, Ukraine was discussed at length. At first, Trump wanted to persuade Xi to reduce support for Russia so that Putin would agree to end the war. Whether the parties reached an agreement in this regard was not announced.
A strategic dialogue of cooperation has been established between authoritarian Russia and authoritarian Beijing. And in order to be able to take that risk, Xi, in exchange, must receive something even more important and significant, something that would truly correspond to the high level of relations between America and Beijing. They are more reminiscent of the logic of de-escalation measures in the trade and economic sphere, and therefore, I wouldn't say that a strategic alliance or ongoing dialogue has been established between Washington and Beijing at this time.
Donald Trump rated the meeting 12 out of 10. By the way, this was the first meeting between the leaders of the US and China in the past 6 years.
According to the statement, we see there won't be any tariffs on Chinese goods, and American agricultural products will have access. So, in a way, the announcement sounds good. But as for how true that really is, again, if we look at Trump's presidency, we remember at least Trump's statements about achieving peace in the Middle East after 3,000 years. You know, I'm someone who reads news from the Middle East, and what's happening there doesn't even remotely remind me of any achievements by Iran. So, Trump's statements about having agreed on everything with China and everything being wonderful, well, let's at least wait 48 hours and then we'll see.
Trump said that he had agreed with Xi Jinping on a visit to China in the spring of next year. After that, there will be a reciprocal visit by the Chinese leader to the United States. How do you assess the change in China's rhetoric towards Russia? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button under the video, and stay up to date with the main news. There are almost 480,000 of us subscribed. More to come. See you soon.